Adding an ink bleed to your digital work is one of those subtle touches that can completely transform the artwork. It adds a sense of imperfection that makes the artwork feel alive, tactile, and real. It's a simple effect, but when done well, it can make your designs feel more human. Hey guys, it's Tyler from Fox Rocket Studio. Apologies for no uploads for quite a while. I have no excuse, I will do better. So in this video, I'm going to walk through a variety of ways to create realistic ink bleed effects in Photoshop. Some techniques are quick and subtle, others are more complex and experimental. The goal is to give you a variety of options so you can experiment, tweak things, and figure out what works best for you. So here's what we'll cover. We'll kick things off with a simple layer style that gives you a clean, basic ink bleed. Next, we'll add some subtle imperfections to make it feel more organic. Then we'll crank it up with a stronger effect that really nails that classic ink bleed look. After that, we'll explore some more complex techniques. Think blotchy ink spreads and a blurred dispersing spray effect. By the end of the video, you'll have a toolkit of methods to add that messy and perfect quality that gives your designs that character and spontaneity of real ink. I've also put together a ready-to-use PSD template called INKREDIBLE with a bunch of these effects, plus some nice detailed background textures. I honestly love this template. It saves me a ton of time when working on client projects or creating content. You can grab it at foxrocketstudio.com and get 15% off with the code INK15. So we'll just start off by creating a new document. I like to do 12 by 16 because it's the new Instagram ratios, 300 DPI, white background, and yeah. Right, next I'm just gonna grab a texture from my Surface Supply texture pack. Let's have a look through here. It's nice to just have a texture off the bat because it just really helps to add to the effect. Okay, so we've got our texture. We've got some nice detailed texture here. Okay, so we'll just add the graphic that we're gonna add our ink bleed to. I can't spell. Okay, so straight off the bat, we want to set up this layer so that it's ready to add a bunch of effects to. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click on this layer and we're going to go stroke. We're going to change that to white. And we're just going to increase the size to 250, make sure it's outside. Just copy this basically. And we're going to just add a color overlay of black. Okay, and then what we're going to do is go back up here. We're going to convert this to a smart object by right clicking on it. Go convert to smart object. Cool, so now this is a smart object. And then we're going to double click on this layer again to bring this up, be in the blending options tab. And we're going to blend out the whites of the current layer so you can see how that white stroke disappears. I'll explain why we need that white stroke later. Maybe put this down to 200, why not? And then another thing we can do is blend the underlying layer so that this starts to get a bit of texture. So if you hold Alt or Option on Mac and you drag this side out, you can see how the text starts to pick up some of the texture. Let me just zoom in to show you that. So you can see how it's now pulling texture from the background because like these levels are now sort of being blended out smoothly. So you can kind of do this to however you want really. I'm just going to put it at maybe 210. We'll go 200. Right, so we've got our text here. It's got a bit of texture, but obviously it still needs an ink bleed. So first off, we're just going to do a simple layer style to add a very subtle little bleed to all of the text. So for that, we're going to want to add this to its own group. So Command or Control G. And then in this group, double click on it, and we're going to go outer glow. And we're going to set that to overlay. The opacity, this is kind of where you can experiment. But if I put this up a bit and get the size up, we start to get a glow around here. Now, one problem you probably noticed is that this text has now just gone absolute black again. So for that, we want to do the same thing as we did with the layer originally and come back here, hold Alt and just blend this down to around the same to 200. So we've got that texture back now. So if we go back to the glow, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in here a bit so we can see what's happening. So now we'll go back in here, we'll double click. Now with the outer glow, you can play around with this, but you can see it's very subtle. It's kind of tough to see. You can reduce the range a bit, which can make it slightly less subtle. Hopefully it's being picked up on the screen, but it kind of just makes it look as if the ink is bleeding into the paper texture a bit, and having it an overlay means that it will pull colors from the background texture. So if you had on normal, it's just going to be black. But if you put it on overlay, it makes it look a lot more realistic, because that's got this slight, this background texture's got a little bit of blue to it, so you can kind of see that being pulled through in this outer glow. Anyway, the best way to compare would be to just enable it and disable it, so you can see like before, after, you get this subtle bleed all around the text. Another good blend mode with this layer style is actually color burn. It does a similar thing to overlay by pulling color from the background, but it's a lot stronger of a bleed. So you can see, you know, it starts to bleed into one another. I personally just love this outer glow setup, because I just love the fact that you just so quickly and easily get this effect where the coloring, the black coloring, you know, it's not just absolute black all the way out. It doesn't just look like an outer glow. It looks like a bleed because it's pulling the color from the backdrop. Okay, I think I'm just going to go to the blend options here and actually bring this back up slightly just to get the text a little bit darker. I think there needs to be a little bit more contrast. It was looking a bit too grainy. So we're just going to disable this outer glow style on this group for now, because we're going to go through some other ink bleed effects. Okay, so now we're going to create some subtle sort of imperfections across the whole text to give you a sort of printed look. Okay, so we'll start by going filter, noise, median, and this is just going to curve edges generally, curve corners, I mean, and just, you know, give that initial slight bleed look where there's no sort of sharp edges. I think we'll just leave that at 8. That looks good, but you can experiment with that. Okay, so then we're going to go filter, distort, wave. Now for this, we're going to do a couple of these. The first one, we want some sort of larger waves going across the edges here to kind of give it just that weird, like, organic imperfection. So we're going to set this at maybe 30, this at 80, the wavelength. Amplitude, we'll do 2, maximum 8. And the horizontal and vertical, we'll just leave that at 5 and 5. We'll go okay. Okay, cool. So you can see here, you know, it's looking a bit more printed now. If that's too wavy for you, you can always change it. You know, you just go back in here, double click on the setting. You could even just click randomize here a couple times and then come back out and it'll give you a new. Yeah, that's actually nicer. Just by clicking randomize a few times, I'm preferring that. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're actually going to duplicate this wave smart filter by holding Alt or Option and clicking and then dragging above to just give us another one on top. Now we're going to double click into this one and we're going to get a much smaller wave now. So we're going to go 2 to 20, the wavelength. Amplitude, we'll do 5 to 10. And then the horizontal and vertical will leave the same. I'm just going to click randomize a few times, why not? And then click OK. Okay, that's too much. Yeah, we're going to bring that back a bit. I've overdone that. I think we'll go 3 and 3. That's looking better. I'm a bit more happy with that. Don't love this bit here. So what I'm going to try and do is just click randomize a few times and see if that. Yep. If in doubt, click randomize. Cool. So as you can see, this is already looking a lot better than what it did beforehand. I mean, if we just compare crisp text and then apply the smart filters, now it's immediately got that printed look going to it. So another way to get a similar effect to this, but you know, just a slightly different method, would be to use crystallize, which I'm going to show you now. So I'm just going to duplicate this by holding Alt, clicking and dragging above. And I'm going to delete these wave smart filters. We'll just hide that other one for now. Okay, so we've got our layer and we've added the median effect to kind of curve off these edges. So we're going to go filter, pixelate, crystallize. And then we'll set that to maybe 5. You can see it's got these kind of rough edges. Well, that, I mean, you could leave it like that if that's what you're going for, you know. It's like a sort of rough printed look. What we can do is actually add another filter by going filter, filter gallery, and then going stamp. in the sketch section. Now, as you can see, this is kind of smoothing off those rough edges to give another sort of printed look. This is why we added the white stroke, by the way, so that the graphic that we're editing has a backdrop so that effects like stamp can work correctly, because they work in black and white values. So having that white kind of space surrounding the graphic just allows for this to work correctly. So yeah, you can add stamp on top of your crystallize so that then you get this, sort of bumpy, bit smoother printed texture. I turn that off. You've got this kind of rough printed texture. Turn it on. You've got this smoother printed texture. So you can use all of these effects, however you want. I could get this larger wave layer that we did on the previous one and bring it onto this one, and that's gonna add some more effect to it, Let's see, so now this is looking a bit wobbly. Let's go into that wave one and randomize it a few times. Yeah, so now we've got a slightly more overall wobbly text with a rough finish. Add stamp, and now it's smooth, so you can really experiment with all of that. There's a lot of ways to get subtle printed looks without it all looking exactly the same. They are subtle effects, so granted the difference is subtle, but that's the point. Right, so now we're going to turn this into the sort of classic ink bleed look that a lot of people think of when they think of ink bleed, which kind of, I would say, gets all these letters looking a bit interconnected and bleeding into one another. So for that, we're just going to use this original one that we had set up, where we'll just duplicate that, bring it up the top, hide that old one, just bring these up for now. Okay, so we're going to add to this, we're going to add filter, blur, Gaussian blur. 20 will work. We'll come back and experiment with that, but what we want to make sure is that this Gaussian blur is right at the bottom of the stack of filters. And then what we're going to add to this is another filter, not filter, well, I guess it's an adjustment. We'll go image adjustments, threshold. Yeah, just leave that at 128, and again, bring that down just above the Gaussian blur. So, you can already see this is basically just worked. It's now bleeding into the other letters and is even more rounded, and that classic ink bleed look. Turn the Gaussian blur off. You've got the subtle sort of printed look. Get the Gaussian blur on. It all starts to bleed into one another. And then you can experiment by changing the size of this Gaussian blur. We'll just do that, just for argument's sake. And yeah, it's all just bleeding into one another with these two filters. Okay, so next we're going to create a more unique ink bleed look using ink blotches that kind of disperse off it randomly in different parts at different strengths, kind of pooling bits of ink across the graphic. So for that, we'll just use the thing we've already created so far. We're just going to go filter, pixelate, crystallize, and we'll set this to maybe 40 for this one, and we'll click OK. So obviously this looks terrible right now, but if we click on this little icon here and change the blend mode to, oh my goodness, to multiply, and then the opacity to maybe 30%. Okay, and then we're going to duplicate this again, so we'll hold Alt, click, and drag that up. So now we've got another crystallize filter, and we'll double click into it, and we'll set this to 100. But we will reduce the opacity by, again, double clicking on that little settings icon to maybe 15. Okay, now this is looking all right. It's okay. You've got some like little bleeds coming off it, but it's a little bit, the edges are a little bit hard. Doesn't look as good as it can. So straight away, a quick thing to make that look a lot better is to change the blend mode of the overall layer to color burn. So now you can see these bleeds are pulling color from the backdrop, and instantly it looks so much better. If you wanted it to be stronger, you could add another one. duplicate it again, you know, same technique, Alt, drag. And we'll maybe make this, what, 120, maybe? Try that. Yeah, so now we've got some random bleeds going here and there, stronger in certain places than others, but, you know, overall it's looking pretty good. But still, these edges just look a little bit too sharp, you know? And so the best way to solve that actually is to just use that glow layer style that we did right at the beginning. So add this outer glow, don't worry, it looks terrible now, it won't. We'll just change it to overlay, and we'll change the opacity to maybe 50, yeah, 50. We can mess around with this a bit more if we want, but that's looking okay. So now you can see those harsh edges of that ink blur basically don't exist anymore, just by adding that outer glow. You know, it just works. You still got the random little stronger bits here and there, but adding the glow just blends it all together. Okay, and one thing I almost forgot, which is really important for this effect, really ties it all together and just generally makes the effect look a lot stronger. Although you can leave it like this, you know, this is a slightly more subtle version of it. But if you just add another crystallize, so we'll just alt click, drag, and then we'll change the size of this one by double clicking. We'll just down to 5, and then we'll go into the settings for it, double click, and we'll actually set the opacity to 100. And there you go. Instantly a much stronger version of the effect. Super effective. And I can't believe I almost forgot to show you that. So yeah, that's kind of like the final result of this blotchy ink effect. Kind of looks like an old sort of the kind of ink bleed you'd see on like an old pirate map or something, you know, some old scroll. Okay, and the last effect that we're going to do is a sort of dispersed ink bleed effect, where certain parts of the text are a lot more blurred than others, and almost like the ink is kind of dispersed onto the page. So we're just going to go filter, blur gallery, field blur. So we're in field blur, and you've got these little pins, and you can basically just move them around, you know, and just move this around to choose the blur strength. We'll add another one in, and we'll lower the blur quite a lot, and then you can start to see it take shape, you know, with different sections being blurred, other parts being crisp. Yeah, so you just play around with this, you know, you've got a few pins here and here, and until you're happy with kind of how your graphic is being displayed, and then you just click OK. So what you can do with this effect is, if you want this blur to like be a bit more grainy, you can just go filter gallery, and reticulation, which is in Sketch. We want the density to be around 25, and then I believe I'm forgetting this myself, we want the blend mode to be overlay. Yes, we do. God, I almost forgot that myself whilst trying to teach it to other people. Yes, so you put the blend mode on overlay once you've got the reticulation from filter gallery, and then you get this grainy blur, which is, you know, another quite nice effect. I don't know which one I prefer, really. I mean, that one definitely looks more like a sort of ink bleeding into the paper, but I also really like this one. I like the grainy, noisy blur. Right, so now you have the ability to make all of these different effects by yourself on Photoshop. But if you don't want to spend loads of time adding hundreds of smart filters to a graphic just to get this look, then I've got something to show you. I've got my latest tool, INKREDIBLE, which is a template full of a bunch of variants of the effects I've just shown you, all set up in a really easy to use PSD. You know, we got loads of different blotchy effects. We got some different dispersed text. Basically to save you guys the time of having to apply all these different varieties of filters to your work, I have made this template, and you literally can just go into this smart object and edit the text or add your own graphic. So I just do that, and then you just literally save, and after a little wait, all of these will be updated. So you can just come back in here, choose the effect that you want, and you've got your graphic with your ink bleed effect. It also features 5 high-res textures to use as your backdrop, which really adds to the ink bleeds and kind of changes the vibe depending on which texture you use, because the bleeds all kind of blend into this backdrop. So this template is available now over at foxrocketstudio.com, link in the description, and you can also get 15% off with code INK15 at checkout. So yeah, if you want to save yourself loads of time in the future, then go grab this. Right, I hope that tutorial was helpful. I tried to cover a lot of different ways in which you can add ink bleeds to your graphics, and yeah, just play around with these and experiment with them. That's kind of the beauty of this stuff. Don't just do exactly as I do. I would really experiment and combine effects that maybe I didn't in this tutorial and see the results that you get, because that's really the fun of it, is kind of making it your own. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I have much more planned, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.